Good day to you. This is Jonathan with Sojourners Awake. Again, this is the second part of our Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus adventure for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. We had a lot of fun playing this episode, and once again, I enjoy using the modules as inspiration, but I don't necessarily stick to the storyline. Between players' shenanigans and their ideas, as well as my own ideas in the late of night as I think about the game, a lot changes in the storyline. Hope you enjoy this episode. Again, please excuse any audio. I'm still learning how to use my new editing software and learning all kinds of things about microphones and sounds. And that's what it's all about, learning. And so for now, our story continues.
Now comes the time where we see how you have been faring in light of these events. The world has changed, and most assuredly, you took part in this shift. And now, for 1 year later, we witness the year of accomplishments of the Sojourners. Today is the midsummer celebration, the sun highest in its rotation. 1 year has passed since you set foot in the Desert of Scorn. Much has changed. The halls of Grovelore, however, still hold a cool temperature in this deep underground. As your boots step forward, you feel the smooth stones stretch hundreds of feet into the earth as they display the annals of the dwarven history. A young dwarf ties his brown beard back and slings it over his shoulder as he reverently chisels a new update into the stone wall. He turns to see you when you arrive. "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you there." And he bows low to Felthran Grovelore. On the day of your initiation, what do we see?
Felthran returned to Grovelore after we made sure everybody was set, and participated in supporting Uncle Gundren in becoming the leader of our tribe, and also in implementing all of the reclamation projects to bring Grovelore back. In that same amount of time, he found himself spending quite a bit of time out in the grove, where the first time was with Serena and learning the dwarvish ways. This time is building relationship with Moradin, going deeper in his faith in Moradin, and through circumstances he still doesn't really understand, becoming connected to the plane of Arcadia, and most significantly connecting with the storm, the Storm King, the Lightning Storm King from Arcadia, who is the Lightning King, and he's an angel. Felthran becoming a much more faith-driven man in this time, and through his experience with this deity and drawing closer to Moradin, he felt like it was time to take who he is to the next level. And in this process, what you see is a much brighter Felthran. His hammer that you know is gone. His armor that you've known is gone. And in fact, Garindan, you're in Grovelore, so you've kind of watched this process happen. But Bramble, when you and Hay both first arrived to Grovelore, you see this dwarf who looks maybe 100 years younger than Felthran approach you with Felthran's hammer and Fezzik's armor and shield, and you have no idea what's happening. And this younger dwarf walks up to you and says, "Lord Bramble, Lord Hay, Felthran is expecting you." And exactly. That's exactly what you do, because you see all of Felthran's stuff on this young man. And he says, "Oh, excuse me. Felthran told me that you would be coming. So let me take you to him. So then he'll lead you to where Felthran is, and Felthran comes walking out.
Outside of Cryptogarden Forest, 7 wagons arrive with barrels and sacks, foodstuffs, ale, as well as gifts from guests, such as Lady Silverhand, Leosin from the Harpers, who of course could not arrive in time for this celebration. The young man requests your signature and says, "Can I get a name for you, Mr. Dwarf, for the delivery?"
Yeah, Garindan Greybeard. I've been expecting you yesterday.
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm new to the job. I don't know if you've had those moments before, but I mean, I used to be a shoveler, and I shoveled stuff on a ferry, and there was this drow man one time. He told me, looked me in the eye and said, "Be the best you can be." And so I decided to deliver. I'm trying to make a name for myself. But, times are hard, and so I got to work wherever there is work to be had. Most of the ferries are down now, and travel is dangerous along the Dellenber River, so I do apologize.
I didn't ask for a story, but it's okay. Come in, take yourself.
Sorry about
Get yourself a drink, something to eat. You're here now, that's all that matters.
Pretty nice around here. Y'all having a celebration?
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
He looks over at the wagon of 7. He says, "Y'all have come into some good times then, huh?"
Yeah, we went through some pretty bad ones, but we'll take the good ones.
Shoot. Seems like y'all are doing all right. He kind of whistles at the amount of food and supplies that have been ordered. And yep, friends in high places, I'll be.
Yes, we're very fortunate, and we share, so help yourself. But we got to get ready for this celebration. It's anniversary, and friends coming all over.
He helps himself to much more than should be politely accepted.
That's hospitality. All right.
And then he hurries up. "Oh shoot, I gotta go. I got a delivery to run." And he begins to unload the wagons in a hurried fashion, dumping half the stuff on the floor, knocking things over. Some of the apples spill out and tear through the bag, and they crumble along the ground.
Just keep shoveling, brother.
The horse takes a dump, and he instinctively runs over to it and cleans it up. The caravan of wagons leaves, and you are left, Garindan, to prepare everything for tonight's celebration. Namely, the announcement that King Gundren has said a holy ceremony will take place on behalf of Felthran Grovelore to initiate him into the service. How do you prepare for tonight's special celebration?
So Garindan is proprietor of a pub right there in Grovelore. It's called Moradin's Beard. It's a really big place. It's quite well established. He did take some of that money and put it to good use, and he's got the best dwarven cooks and even a couple halflings because he knows that some good people coming. They want something, and he's their delicacy is the chocolate covered biscuits. That's what people are known for. He has some pretty cool beers, including a coffee beer on tap, which he got the idea from Waleed, but it's not charmed. It's charming, but it's not charmed. This is a place where a lot of the dwarves come after a busy day down the mines, and he entertains them by playing bagpipes of the nighttime and sharing stories and singing songs of how they defeated Tiamat and just a generally raucous good times. And he's got a lot of good help, and because he's using all of his experience that he gained from his various travels in ale houses to run his own place. So yeah,
it is quite the establishment. Many of the dwarves compliment you as a man of many tricks, and much more established than the Orc Tusk Tavern that you'd worked for in Leyland. This place obviously has the finances and the backing to manage everything. Grovelore looks much different than you did when you left it. After cleaning through, Gundren did a wonderful job cleaning up through the cultists and ridding the place of ghouls and monsters and slimes that had occupied the dungeons in the caverns of deep. Now it's a bright and cheery place, although dark and hollow and holy, very reverent place. The dwarven sounds echo throughout each of the caverns. The high ceilings and the stone floors and walls ricochet. No one speaking common, everyone laughing and chanting in the harsh guttural language of dwarven kind. Bramble. The sunlight glides across the forest canopy and the dry path through the woods in Cryptogarden Forest. You push a branch away and find yourself opening into a broad meadow. As you move through the forest on your way to Grovelore, how do we find you and what do you appear as?
Bramble's a little bit nervous. He has a surprise prepared for his friends. He has been teaching himself Dwarven. He is, working on his greetings, making sure that he's going to pronounce everything correctly. And that's pretty well occupying his mind as he's just happy to be reunited. He has seen Garindan and Felthran a few times over the last year, and even had each of them at one point come to Red Larch to help him as he has been as he's set up a temple to Moradin there. So he had Garindan advising on the structure, how I guess the design of it, and Felthran on the execution of that design. So he's excited to be seeing his friends again. It's been a few months.
Bramble, in this collection of various trees, as you press on through the forest, you spy a cruel wooden spear jabbed into a beech tree. The shaft is crude, and the tip of the spear holds in place a dripping orb, leaking a red and black fluid.
That'll strike his curiosity. He'll go and pull it out of the tree and look at that orb.
Head rolls at your feet, its eyes sunken back, rotting away, severed, lying on the ground. Maggots crawl out of its orifices. The spear splinters in your hand, leaving a small little stab on your palm.
Do I recognize the make?
Indeed, it is carved a very foul language, abyssal. It is the language of the lower planes, of demons, night hags, Yugoloths, various fiends of the chaotic nature. And it simply says, worship the Knoll Lord. You know what a Knoll is, a ferocious hyena-like creature, tall and menacing, cannibalistic, carnivorous, giving to its gluttony in service of Yinagu, the demon lord of gluttony. Tearing through the material plane, he feasted and commands his servants to terrorize wherever they may go.
Bramble will keep the section of the spear that has that written on it and sort of tuck it into his pack, and pay a little bit more attention to his surroundings as he continues on the way to Grovelore.
As you snap the spear, keeping it in place, you hear the laughing sounds of hyenas maybe miles away. Horrid sounds of a feast and celebration. Cryptogarden Forest holds many secrets.
Picks up the pace a bit. If he hears crashing of something loud coming toward him, he will go to stealth mode, but basically he's just going to try to get out as quickly as he can.
And you press on, and before you see the unassuming doorway of the Citadel of Grovelore, However, Felthran and Garindan, there have been some minor upgrades made to this unseemingly insignificant doorway leading into Grovelore. And what are those two changes?
A statue of Moradin on either side.
In addition to the statue of Moradin, where that headstone was at the top of the arch, where it used to have the old king's name, it has now been changed out, and the name of Moradin has been put up there as well.
This is a holy place, a special place dedicated to Moradin, who aided you in reclamation of Grovelore. As you walk up, you see Garindan picking up apples that are off the ground and putting them back into baskets and collecting things. You have a moment to greet each other before a new and improved Felthran arrives in your midst.
Garindan, can't you afford servants to do that kind of work for you?
Oh, you would think so. You just can't get the help, man. Well met, friend. Well met. Can I get off you a drink or some chocolate-covered biscuits?
Oh, you know I'm a sucker for chocolate-covered biscuits. That dwarven ale's growing on me slowly.
Garindan, you hear Bramble kind of going back and forth between common and dwarvish.
Oh, I hear you there. That's good news. More of a... you gotta, like you something, like, stuck in your throat. A little bit more, but that's really good. And watch out with that beer, because it's not the only thing that grows on you if you drink too much.
And Felthran steps from midst to the sound of thunder. Though today is a bright and clear, sunny day, you hear a crackling as your arm hairs begin to stand up, as if electrical current is moving through the ground. You turn to see, and Felthran, how do they see you?
So, having seen Greco with Felthran's old gear, you're not really sure what to expect, but similar to when Gandalf becomes Gandalf the White, although not quite that strong, you see a different aura around Felthran as he comes in to greet you. You notice that his chainmail has been exchanged for plate mail, and he no longer has the same shield. He has a new shield, and he has a new hammer. The hammer that he's carrying is now glowing with an electricity, a light of electricity. On the sigil on his shield and on his armor is both of them are a hammer with a lightning bolt in the midst of the head of the hammer. And so it's this new sigil, and unique. You haven't seen it anywhere else in Grovelore. It's unique to Felthran and his gear, and he looks like he's aged a year, and he looks like he hasn't aged at all, because what's the difference between 286 and 287? But his countenance is bright and gentle as always, and he sees you, and big smile on his face. Bramble, you're here. Good to see you, friend.
Bramble's a bit shocked because it's been a lot of this change has happened. A lot of this change has happened recently, I imagine.
Yeah, he kept it under wraps. Just him, the weaponsmith, and the armorer really were the only ones that knew what was happening with this gear. And he kept his old stuff, even though Greco knew it was coming to him. He didn't receive it until this past week.
Bramble forgets to respond in Dwarven. He says, Felthran, wow, what in the world?
Moradin be praised, my friend. We have lots to share.
So it seems. What is going on? I saw your man, I guess, a little while ago wearing all your old gear. I could not have expected this, though.
Greco has been a fantastic comrade and confidant, support, right-hand man, I guess you could say. And it was only fitting when the Lord of Arcadia found me worthy as his servant in the service of Moradin, that Greco would then carry on the gear that was Fezzik's, and then mine, and now his.
Don't be fooled by all this shiny thing. This is just what happens when he takes a bath.
I guess that I wouldn't know any better. I've never seen him after a bath.
Exactly.
True story. But you never smelled me after a bath either.
A marvelous assortment of fine foods all across Waterdeep. Breads, cheeses, meats, pies, and of course kegs stacked high like a circus performance, spewing forth the ale of dwarven kind. Greco asks you for a song, Felthran. Felthran, Cafe Pape! And then he kind of stops for a minute and says, I'm sorry, Felthran, I forgot to address you by your title. But I guess you still got one more hour before we have to call you by your proper name. So for now, it's Felthran. Give us an old hymn. And everyone gets quiet. And if you would, just deliver the message of this dwarven hymn that begins to burst forth from your lungs.
So you've heard Felthran sing before. It's not beautiful, but Felthran will sing as he does anyways, which I'm not going to do because I like my voice. But the message of the story is that in the rebuilding of Grovelore, there was a deep need to honor Moradin for all he had done delivering our home back to us. And then the second verse would talk about in the deepening, in the worship of Moradin, the plane of Arcadia was revealed, and the four angelic beings that Moradin has placed to rule in Arcadia have also shown favor on the dwarves of Grovelore. The third verse would talk about the bond between Felthran and the Lightning Lord, and how Felthran has been commissioned by him to be a servant of Moradin under the service of the Lightning Lord of Arcadia. And then the fourth verse would be about Felthran's love for Grovelore and all the dwarves therein, and how he is honored and privileged to serve out the rest of his years as a servant of Grovelore.
A sounding applause, cheer goes up, and King Gundren approaches you. This proud crown upon his head, he hobbles over, his beard now gone white, his blue eyes tearing up and misting, and says, "That's a fine song, Felthran." He puts his hand on your shoulder and addresses all of you. And he begins to speak in Dwarvish. Bramble, you pick up pieces of the conversation back and forth. A Greco nearby, like catching some of your curious glances and interpreting for you in common. There's not much to say. I mean, Felthran said it all. We owe it all to Moradin, the Allfather. He saw fit that the time of the dwarves hath not come to a close. It was 1 year ago today, 2 years ago, that Rockstrung was born from the earth. Now I see we got a few mankind in our audience. Us dwarves, we don't just make babies the way y'all do, you know. Moradin births us from the ground, the rocks, you know. We're brought into the world by the will of our God. It ain't no accident. It ain't no romance or love. It's a creation. And everyone kind of chants, raising their glasses high. And we were tasked upon this plane to create things after the likeness of the Allfather. Whether it be friendships, are forged in fire. I thought for sure that Moradin had decided our time had come to a close, for it had not been too long that a dwarf was created among us. And it's been quiet, but with years under our belt, heroes like Felthran, he looks over to you, Garindan, and Greybeard, my brothers, Nundro and Darden, we have decided, by the way of Moradin, the time of the dwarves is just beginning. Everyone cheers again, and the lights begin to open up, and you see the vast great hall of Grovelore as it expands yards and into a hallway, a long table of stone that is permanently affixed there in this dining hall. The area is lit up, and barely you can see the extent, the height at which it goes. The dwarven sounds rumble and send tremors throughout the earth. An earthquake of love, an earthquake of honor, as it rumbles through the very caverns of the ground. Grovelore is here to stay. When my time comes to close, a successor will be named, but today, he looks at you, Felthran, today is about nominating a holy defender. It has pleased Moradin that Felthran has received an invitation from the Storm King, namely the King of Lightning, from the plain of Arcadia. But I say, Felthran, you've earned this nomination a long time ago. We're just making it official. He stands before you and lays out his hands and begins to pray in Old Dwarvish. The dwarves all remove their bonnets and their caps, their bald heads exposed in reverence to Moradin. Felthran, let me embrace you as a holy defender of Grovelore and all dwarven kind. He grabs your beard.
Felthran to grab his beard back.
He smashes his forehead against yours, but instead of fire and flames that erupt, a peal of thunder and lightning shatters forth. And all of you see Felthran emblazoned in light, shimmering, crackling with energy. Felthran, it is your turn to address Grovelore.
Moradin be praised.
Aye.
Brothers, sisters, friends, those who call Grovelore home, those who are friends of Grovelore. I am honored by the All-Father to take on this responsibility. There were many years that none of us were able to call Grovelore home. And the last time we did, well, we did not do it quite right. But we have a new Grovelore, and we have a new king. And in me, you have one who will defend Grovelore and the dwarves and Moradin to all who will hear, and from all who will try to take this away from us.
And you hear from the audience someone, a dwarf, chant, "Amen! All mankind is welcome so long as they stoop to get low through our doors."
That's no problem for my friend Bramble over there.
Yeah, exactly. A couple people like elbow Bramble back and forth, like caught between two dwarves as he gets tussled. One grabs you by puts you in a headlock and tussles your hair, and then the silence is broken as people begin talking and singing, and some music being played in the background, some pipes and drums, the bagpipes, Garindan, as you're blasting through. Many of your friends find the opportunity to reunite in this great hall. and you might find someone you wish to greet, as this is a reunion of great proportions. All alongside, there are also a table where many gifts from Lady Silverhand and the Harpers have arrived with each of your names on them. So while you're greeting, if you would roll a D100 to see what gift you receive. Interesting. Okay. Addressed to you, Garindan, the Cape of the Mountebank. As you hold this black cape, it smells faintly of brimstone.
Oh no.
On the tag, it says, while using it, you can cast Dimension Door as an action. The property of the cape cannot be used again until the next dawn. When you disappear, you leave behind a cloud of smoke and sulfur.
Felthran will love this.
I don't like how it smells, Garindan. You be careful.
It is a very expensive, fine quality cape. It is from Lady Silverhand and is sent with just a simple smiley face with a wink. Bramble. You receive a small little helmet. It is a fantastic helmet, custom fitted for you. What kind of helm or headpiece would Bramble find cool?
Tempted to say a visor.
A visor.
Born backwards.
Yeah.
Don't hide the hair. Don't hide the hair.
I think kind of like a sort of subtle circlet.
Okay. A circlet, a fine, crafted, specifically fitted for Infolk. It is a helm of teleportation. This helm has 3 charges. It says while wearing it, you can use 1 action and cast teleport.
Sweet.
And 20. And for Felthran, it is a belt from Lady Silverhand. And she says, for the defender of Grovelore and Bonzarel and all folk who wish for good in the world, it is the belt of dwarven kind, and it does require attunement. While wearing this belt, you gain the following benefits. Your constitution increases to a maximum of 20. You have advantage on charisma checks made with dwarves. I am sorry, that is not it. That is a belt to turn you into a dwarf. You are already a dwarf.
All right, that's good.
It is a cool belt, but I have the stats for that later. You do not need that.
All right.
That doesn't.
I've got a cool belt. You're going to tell me about it later.
Hey, this is Jonathan. Real quick, I used a cool feature instead of the Belt of Dwarven Kind. I gave him the Blazing Revival, the feature in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything on page 40. Okay, back to the episode.
And there might be someone you might want to reunite with here as you are greeting the guests. Garindan. Small little place takes forth, and one of the dwarves says, "Hey Gary, we got it for a little while. We'll just play a little bit of a little flute, little song, if you want to take a drink."
I appreciate it. I'm a little parched. It's good.
You head over to the kegs and you pour yourself a drink, and whom are you looking for? Could be anyone.
I'll be looking for Lady Silverhand, see if she's there in person.
She is not. Her gifts have arrived, and she sent forth everything from Waterdeep. She comes in the form of food and fine drink.
Okay, then he's looking for Leosin, Leosin, the council guy.
Leosin from the Harpers. And he is there, and he kind of pours a drink alongside you. And, Garindan! Hey, it's good to see you. I did not think I would be able to run into. It's just there's so many dwarves here, and I mean, without your hat, you look a little different than everybody else. I'm sorry, I've had a little one too many and everything. Dwarfen ale, it's a little strong. How is everything going here in Grovelore?
Oh, everything's man. As you can see, it's amazing. You know, how's the rest of the world?
Well, thanks to your help, we did get the check, and the Hoppers are very well funded to continue their efforts. You know, I think this nation thing might actually work. I had longed to see the Waterdeep Alliance unite. I believe we are a stronger front if we band together rather than being disparate cities. I hope Chancellor Winston, I hope he can do the right thing. So far, he wants to keep the Harpers in the loop, but from what I understand, the war against the Church of Tiamat has not completely ended. We are split between the east and the west, beyond the Sunset Mountains, and of course, people like the Talenta Hindfolk that you spoke of, they're caught in the middle of it.
Oh no.
For your friend Bramble, Red Larch will, quite possibly be on the borders of any wars or battles that might take place. They should be under the protection, although militia should be in place soon.
So it worries me, this religion, they're only allowed to worship people that helped. How is that?
Well, it's just gonna crack down. We decided as the nation of Waterdeep to consolidate our worship to strengthen the gods. It's a matter of merging all of our worship together. So if there were any gods that were not really beneficial, then they simply got cut from the list. So as far as the planes are concerned, we probably didn't make too many friends, but gods like Lathander, Ilmater, Umberlee, Milil, they've all retained our glory and worship. Moradin, of course. But that was just a mere effort to keep the gods powerful. It came as a surprise that Tiamat was able to rise to power as much as she could have. We don't want that to happen again, of course.
Surely not, no.
Yes, it is sad. I mean, I feel for the gods sometimes. They rely on us for their worship, and they can only do things as long as we have prayers issued forth. But there are plenty other ways that a god can spend their time besides aiding us.
True, I just, we wanted freedom of choice, that's all.
Well, times of war, there's not much choices to be had. Everyone has to make sacrifices. So I can say that I have spoken to some people who, find it a little unsettling that the nation is telling them who they can pray to and who they cannot do anything about private prayer. But it does come at a little of a steep cost if you are sending forth prayers to someone who doesn't matter, at least in our mission.
But they're not punished.
Oh, no, not punished. It just comes at a steep cost.
Yeah. Well,
of course, if someone's found worshipping Tiamat, they are imprisoned.
Of course. Yes, we don't want that. No. There was a whole thing that happened in the desert. We don't want that. Yeah, let's hope. So, any big sightings of any nasty demons recently?
At least in our territory, devils know, where one door opens, another closes, and where one window closes, another opens. It's the nature of the universe. There have been more demon sightings. Common folk don't know the difference. They just think they're all fiends, but there's quite a dynamic interchange between demons and devils. Excuse me. I do need to speak to someone over there. Perhaps we can continue this conversation later.
Yes.
When I'm a little more sober.
Well, not for tonight then. Here's another one.
Yeah, thank you very much. Bramble, you have a minute to greet someone, perhaps Garindan or Felthran or anyone that you would be looking for.
Bramble is pleased to see that former Governor Knackle is present.
He is, and he's kind of dancing a little bit as everyone's playing, and he's talking to someone really fast. And, no, drinks for me and everything. I just can't really think. Anyway, look, just sign here. If you just take the notes exactly as I told them, follow the directions, everything will be fine. Okay? Okay, good. Bramble, was it?
Yeah. Hello, Governor Knackle. How's it?
Yes. I am still governor. Last time I checked. It's going good. Although, he looks at the string on his finger. There was someone I was supposed to speak to tonight, and they haven't quite come to me. Perhaps you could help me remember. I'm doing well. How does the world find you in your part of the world? Where are you from again?
The Desrin Valley. We're doing pretty well. We're rebuilding still. It's gonna take a while.
Well, if you're ever in need of any kind of construction or anything that's taking place, I've got a new initiative where I am offering my architecture and design to build better suited buildings, taller buildings that last a little bit higher in the sky, and you can populate more people. Red Larch, if I last remember, it's quite a bit of a country place still. There's not much urban development going on. Am I right?
It's part of its charm, yes. I'm not sure that the people of Red Larch would really appreciate that changing, but I'll keep that in mind. That we may need that, depending on some of the rumors that I've been hearing. It might not be safe to live outside of a city for long.
Sadly, yes. The nation of Waterdeep extends to the Desrin Valley as its border. That can be quite a problem, although I'm sure Lady Silverhand and Chancellor Winston have plans for bolstering Red Larch's defenses. Now, have you had any attacks from the Church of Tiamat?
No, but I have heard rumor of them being locked away in the mountains.
They're locking themselves away in the holes and regain their power, no doubt. Although you cut off Severin's head and Waleed, most certainly Tiamat's voice will slip into another person's mind, no doubt. Hopefully someone not as powerful as them, though that is quite the case many times. Can't believe they didn't actually plan this from the beginning. They were just waiting for the right initiative to take place in order for them to gain hold of power. Tell me, what are the Hinfolk's opinions on mankind seizing power during times of calamity?
Generally, not good. When we certainly understand that it's important to do that during a crisis, but most of those that I've talked to don't really see this as an ongoing crisis. Not terribly happy to give up that autonomy. You don't need to worry about revolt or anything. It's not to that level. It's just a little bit of philosophical differences at this point.
Well, see, many of mankind would say that if the nation had already been established, like many people wanted it to be, then there wouldn't be as much devastation, that they could have contained the damage much quicker. But of course, well, we saw what happened in Waterdeep as the Temple of Lathander burned bright light like a torch in the sky. But that's enough of nonsense. From what I understand, the Hinfolk have managed to skirt out of these conflicts for many times, unless they, of course, assimilate into mankind's culture. Red Larch, is it a Hinfolk community, or tell me about it?
There are some Hinfolk there, maybe about a quarter of the population, mostly human.
That's exactly the way the world's going. You know, us gnomes, we aren't very few and far between. We less than 0.1% of the population. Very everywhere we go, we don't really spend too much time reproducing ourselves, reproducing ideas, reproducing our inventions, our knowledge. Comes
Speaking of reproducing and gnomes, have you heard from your son lately?
You speak of the Grayskin.
Yes.
No, I have not heard from him. Not since he let me know that he was heading into Waterdeep to execute his mission. He was with a couple people. His plan was to reinstate the Doom Raiders. You may have heard that the Zentarum splintered heavily, but that was due to Manshoon going missing and killed, possibly both. That is a mystery, and I have not received news on that yet. However, there is a small faction of the Doom Raiders that have been retained. So I don't doubt that they will join the Alliance or the Nation. They will continue to operate as a subversive faction, as will the Wild Sapphire, I imagine.
Having a different name will probably be a good thing. There's not a lot of love for the Zentarum right now.
Yeah, exactly. Many people blame them for the rise of Tiamat. People in power like Manchun, who so quickly moved an entire faction to fund the Church of Tiamat. And that's the problem with these secret organizations and black networks. They don't know why they're doing what they're doing. They're just doing the first thing, and like a cog in the wheel, they move everything. Although it's funny because they boast the greatest amount of autonomy and freedom. Perplexing. What about you? What do you plan to do?
It's been pretty quiet this last year, helping to rebuild the Desserin Valley. But I tell you what, I'm getting a bit of wanderlust. I think I'm ready to get out on the road again.
Fellow Sojourners feel the same way.
I haven't talked to them about it yet. It looks like they're pretty well established here, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that.
Brewmaster over there has got himself a thriving business, no doubt bringing in a significant amount of coin, and the Lightning Dwarf over there seems to have made quite a name for himself as defender of Grovelore, speaking to demigods and angels, and you might be on your own.
It's feeling that way.
Well, I've got a couple of contracts to sign and some finagling to do, so if you'll excuse me, it's been a pleasure talking with you, Hen.
Likewise.
And as the gnome leaves you, Felthran, you have a moment. Many people are dwarves coming up to you and greeting you and congratulating you and celebrating, and many people from Waterdeep that you've never met congratulating you. Many members of the nation, various cities have joined in this celebration. Emissaries from Baldur's Gate, Phandalin, Leyland, Neverwinter, Waterdeep, of course. These mankind emissaries, men and women, representatives of the nation, have joined in this celebration. These things have occurred in the Sword Coast since you encountered Tiamat's cult in the temple. And I do say it was a cult from the very beginning. I knew it. Well, the wealth and resources have been divided as the Waterdeep Alliance warred with the Church of Tiamat. Of course, many siding with Tiamat, the nation split, as you know, Felthran. Refugees fled from Waterdeep, those who were loyal to the cult. All these other cities, they moved to friendlier places where they could hide away in their homes. These places where the church made strong influence. I do believe Parnast is part of that. Oh yes, while the Church of Tiamat strove to take hold of Waterdeep. Well, in the end, this Waterdeep was nearly destroyed. And it would have been had it not been for an anonymous donation. I no doubt is from Lady Silverhand. She's always watched over us. Yes, and we had the help of the Copper Dragons as well. I don't know about dragons, but, well, it's all fell in the hands of the Waterdeep Alliance. Well, no doubt, thanks to many of the brave souls who sacrificed themselves, and of course the cunning leadership of Lady Silverhand. I do hope Chancellor Winston has a right mind to consider her guidance as often as possible. Well, you know the factions of Waterdeep. The Waterdeep Alliance has begged the other factions to set differences aside and form one army, one nation, under a Chancellor of Power. Well, it's already been done, of course. The nation of Waterdeep established 1454. It's a new dawn. It's a new age. Yes. And one cunning, shrewd emissary missionary from Phandalin says, I don't know about you guys. The reign of Tiamat, that most holy church, they retreated in the mountains for a reason. To survive. To grow stronger. Just you wait. Waterdeep thinks this is over. He spits a little bit of tobacco out of his mouth. It ain't over yet. You catch all this information, Felthran, as well as you do, Bramble and Garindan, just back and forth as gossip and information is exchanged. But you get a moment of peace to yourself and your eyes will wander through the crowd.
Felthran has done pleasantries with these different folks, asking, what's happening in Leyland, what's happening in Phandalin, what's happening in Watersdeep, just trying to get a feel for what's happening out in the world. But he's got one eye on a particular person the entire time. And once he has a second to himself, he's going to see if he can sneak off and get a second alone with Uncle Gundren.
Felthran sitting there quietly, his arms, elbows resting on the table as he's tearing away into a bowl of stew. These things you never get to eat. It's always gossip and talking and what's wrong with these humans. Their lives are so short, you think they would enjoy it a little bit more than chatter away. Nephew, come sit. Did you get something to eat? And he pushes a plate of meats, bones, and broth in front of you.
Felthran will take a little bite, not enough to obscure his talking. Uncle, thank you. I know that this day has been a long time coming, and I am so grateful to work beside you in the reclamation and sustaining of Grovelore. There's a lot going on in the world. We have
The whole place is shaking. I can feel it in my bones. We've seen this before. The nation rises, the nation falls, another empire swallows it. It's like a dumb fish in a pond. The bigger fish always comes around and eats it. Deep into the mountains and kept our heads low. We fell to the sickness of greed and gluttony. We consumed too much. We became fat and lazy, Felthran. I hate to say it, but these humans, they keep us on our toes. They keep us fit.
We will not become what we were before. And that's why I wanted to talk with you. Well, you know how well Greco has served us. And you know that as the defender of Grovelore, I might not always be in Grovelore. All this to say, Uncle, that I'm hearing many disturbing things. Whether it be the increased noise from the hyenas in the forest to what I'm hearing from these other cities about the Church of Tiamat still living. I fear that we must do our part in protecting the world. Grovelore has been rebuilt. We have a responsibility to Moradin, to Grovelore, and to the greater good to do what we can to maintain peace, not only in Grovelore, but throughout the world. And I don't know what that looks like yet, Uncle, but I want to prepare you that I am grateful for this honor, and I plan to wear it strongly, represent Grovelore bravely. A time may come that will happen outside of these walls, outside of this mountain. And I want your blessing when that time comes.
They don't know what they're doing. They need our help.
They do need our help.
While mankind is trying to figure a way out to live, not with this much evil running around, it's time for us to get off the comfort of our citadels, to get out of the comfort of our wonderful home we've built.
It is wonderful.
But it ain't worth it if we're not willing to share it. And sometimes we gotta go out and find the evil. I've seen a change in you. It's not subtle, in case you were wondering.
I imagine not.
You'll want to visit Serena before you leave. Her body is fragile, not as hardy as ours. I knew the time was coming. The level of expertise never allowed her to become an arch-druid. It's the price you pay for diversifying your talents. That's the life she chose, and she knew what she was getting herself into. She could have taken the path of a holy body, and she gave it up. For good reasons, partly for your training. When you were lost. Take Garindan with you. I have a feeling you might need to pry him away from his comforts. If you need any help talking him out of the way, I'll help, but I think you got it in you. But by Moradin's sake, don't forget to say goodbye to Serena.
I will see her, Uncle. I believe when the time is right that Garindan will join.
Fair enough, he should choose on his own. By the way, maybe after you convene with him, and you do have a party crasher, in case you haven't noticed. In the quiet corner, pipe smoke mixes with the gossip. A tall, slender man chatters on with the dwarves and the emissaries from the nations, laughing heartily and casting glances at each of you. But before he approaches, the three of you convene. How does this occur?
Well, when Uncle Gundren tells Felthran we've got a party crasher, Felthran will look at him and say, I have seen him, Uncle. I have kept an eye on him. He seems to have been harmless to this point, but I will make my presence known to him shortly. And I think Felthran will walk over to where Garindan is and say, Brother, I need another ale and your company. Please join me.
Good, okay.
No, I didn't say you need another ale.
Oh, okay.
I said I need another ale. You can lean on this shoulder. Just don't touch the hammer.
God, it's
And then as we start walking away, I'll say, Garindan, have you seen Bramble?
What is Bramble doing?
Just kind of wandering around, sort of pretending to drink a lot of ale.
I looked high, but I couldn't see him. I guess I could look low. Oh, there's his feet. See the hairy feet. He's over there.
All right. So we'll make our way over towards Bramble.
I see you two standing together, and that's a bit of a yellow flag, I guess. So,
Bramble, my friend.
what's going on?
Share a drink with me. I haven't had one with you in a very, very long time.
Great.
Actually drink it.
What are you talking about, Garindan? Are you
No.
implying?
Just drink what you can. Pour the rest in my mug. Walk with me, my friends. As you may have noticed, we have a visitor unknown to most of us. I told the king, Uncle Gundren, that I would go and greet him in the name of Grovelore. And I thought maybe you would like to meet him with me.
Travel together again. Across the room.
With too many ales in us.
All of you across the room, you travel. Tanks full of ale with the exception of Bramble. Breath of sweet mountain wind clings to this man's presence, and he greets you and says, besides a wonderful party, holy defender of Grovelore, what else have you managed to bring into the world?
Welcome, friend. I have not had the pleasure.
He extends his ring to you. His hand, slender and white.
Do I recognize the ring?
No.
I just look at it. Did he extend it to me like a handshake?
It's up to you.
Yeah, do you want me to shake that, my friend?
He pulls it back and says, no, shaking it would not be appropriate. He sets his pipe down and excuses himself He looks about. He is very tall, nearly 7 feet, very thin. Underneath his robes, he seems to glide upon the stone floor. He looks down at the three of you. He speaks in a riddle fashion, almost as if there's more meaning behind his words.
I may be a shiny dwarf, my friend, but I need plain words.
Would you give me a tour of Grovelore? I would love to see its expanse.
Certainly. Are you fellas up ready for a walk?
You walk through the great hall, and you find yourself into the main hall of kings, where enormous monuments of the dwarven kings of old stare in silence and hold fast to the annals of history etched in stone at their feet, each subsequent king containing another history of Grovelore and record. And he says, and what do we have here?
Garindan, would you like to share the story?
No, I was just saluting the kings. I was just, fealty.
Is it a common thing to do to salute the kings as you walk up by?
I think it is for some dwarfs. These kings understand how much I appreciate what they have done through the years. I salute Moradin.
You do not honor the kings of dwarves as you do your god.
There was a day, and it is common among dwarfs to do so. But when you have experienced the All-Father in the way that I have, you learn where your praise and honor belongs.
The hall opens up into a room where the floor drops off suddenly into a great iron forge below. Blinding light blasts through each of the corners and heats the room to sweltering temperatures. Alongside the wall, there are shielding goggles for everyone to wear. The floor opens into the forge below, but along the catwalk of stone, the fiery forge bellows below the railings along above the stone bridge. Even now, the dedicated dwarves burn their celebration to the depths of the earth. They ring out the sounds of metal and fire. But you notice this gentleman does not take the goggles and stares into the fire with no aid. This would normally blind a person. As you walk along the catwalk of stone, he looks down at the forge and makes a couple comments back and forth. Bramble, you are silently walking during this time. Your goggles affixed to your head, protecting you from the blinding light. You can hear the dwarves singing, as even in this time of celebration, there are a few dwarves who volunteered to keep these fires going. What are you paying attention to?
Bramble's watching this guy very closely. His glove of firing ready to go. He's not really sure what's up with him, so he's got his eye on him for sure.
Beyond the stone bridge, leaving the light and a heat behind, the hall narrows into a fashioned tunnel leading deep underground. This tunnel, laced with mining tracks, leads into a delta of excavation and burrows sparkling with minerals unearthed. Unlike the forge, however, the veins of earth remain hauntingly quiet, as all mining has ceased for the party. Garindan, what are you paying attention to?
Well, Garindan's like 3 sheets to the wind, so he's just watching his feet, making sure he doesn't fall down. But he's also like checking out this guy and being like, he's looking at the fire. This guy's crazy. I wonder who he could be. He's very curious.
He turns and stares at you, Garindan, sensing, he says, you must have taken quite a bit for a dwarf to become intoxicated. Do you mind? And he extends a hand towards you that crackles with lightning electrical energy.
Well, that was sobering. I was planning the party. I got started early. Sorry, hey, how are you, friend? Well met.
Well met indeed. And such a resource is not wasted for selfish means, so do not thank me. It is for the common good of all that you remain awake. For times of gluttony will be mixed with sobriety, times of waste and times of want have come to judgment, and that is why I am here. And as he speaks to you softly and quiet, he looks at the three of you and says, "Tell me, what do you know of the war between the demons and the devils? This is known as the Blood War." And so for now, our story continues.
So Garindan, he's curious about this Winston guy. You know, I don't know how it's going to get into that, and like what his relationship is with Lady Silverhand, because it sounds like it's, you know, they were like, hopefully he takes her counsel. So I was a little bit like, Garindan was a little bit like, Two, he's looking for like a sacred relic, not relish, sacred relish. You know, it's back to food. He's looking for a
Yummy.
relic, like parchment, like sacred parchment, or like a cloth of a saint. He's looking for that for one of his spells. And
I think you can just use Felthran's underwear, I think.